Hello everyone. This is just a quick component 2 video for those of you who have chosen to do a magazine front cover and possibly subsequent pages as your final product. I've got a couple of things just to go through with you. The first thing I'd like to go through with you is the checklist. And that is because this is going on to Google Classrooms at some point today, hopefully, but it will be on there this week. And it's just to show you the kind of different things that we'll be doing and that we've done that contribute towards your online portfolio. Eventually, in the end, you'll have this as a massive portfolio ready to send off. I think those of you who have chosen to do magazine as your final product have chosen really wisely. I think it's a really nicely creative product. I think that although a lot of our resources have been very much steered towards music videos, and that was my only worry, was that I'm sort of changing things as we go along, trying to find things that you guys might find necessary, suitable. But I still think it's a really good task to have chosen in the end. So the checklist will look a little bit like this. There are things that we've done, mostly things that are coming along the way. So, for example, your half-term homework is to do your proposal and the typography sheet. When we come back after half-term, we're going to work on the logo, photo P, and just sort of finish off tidying up our learner name A part of the folder. So learner name A is more about it's more about having the ideas and learning about sort of music genres and not just music videos. We've all gone through the music videos as well, which is great. But for you guys to sort of see where a music genre takes you, what we instantly associate with a music genre, the bands, the artists, the fonts, the features, the iconography, really, the clothing, even the color schemes, that kind of thing. We should instantly be able to identify things that would feature in a particular music genre. But yeah, learner name A is itself very much an ideas part of the component. We move towards learner name B, and that gets a little bit more practical. So by now, you know what your final product's going to be. You know what your magazine's going to look like. You've got a really good idea of like the features or the person or people that are going to be in it, where you might have your front page staged, how they're going to pose, that kind of thing. But it gets a little bit more, I suppose it gets a little bit more professional. And there are a couple of documents that we will do. And this is more probably towards coming up to Christmas and just a little bit afterwards. And that is where we create some documents that, so start off with a production log, is like a schedule of or where you're going to take your photos. I suppose it goes hand in hand with a bit like a sort of like a storyboard, but where you might take photos, where the location is, what time of day, who's going to be there. Do you need people to help you with like props and clothing and that kind of thing? A call sheet is very similar to a production log, except this is like a bit of a schedule for other people. So if you're the one in charge of the camera, but you've got someone who's like your artist, let's say, it gives them a breakdown of like the plan of action. It's a bit like a bullet point list of, right, on this day at this time I need to do this, 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 and this. It's like a checklist kind of tick list. If you can hear my dog, I do apologise, but she's sitting right next to me. Lovely. The next thing is a risk assessment. Again, very, very professional. It breaks down any task that you're doing practically and sort of declares whether it's a oh dear, whether it's high risk, medium risk, etc. They're really professional documents, and it's definitely a necessity for anyone who's doing a music video. You might not necessarily need it too much for a magazine task, but if you could do one, I would just do one anyway, because I think it will add some kind of clout to your portfolio. Juno, out, out. Right, she's out. Okay, you'll get an opportunity to add to your skills log, which I think you'll need to be doing that ongoing anyway. But this is just like a bit of a reminder. Oh, have you actually added on those practical sides to your skills log as we've gone along? And then this is a bit I really like. So by now you've got a really good idea what kind of rough draft. Out. 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 guys. Okay, so this is the bit that I really like. This is where you've really been thinking about your magazine. You've really been thinking about the draft. You've been putting things together, sketching it, maybe doing some bits on the computer, and you put together your sort of like a not the final draft, but a really good attempt at a rough draft. And you were then going to show that rough draft off to people and audience where they can give you some constructive criticism, really. So it won't be done in class because I think it's probably best to move away from the people that we're in the room with. But you'll need to show people like friends and family. And obviously, I know because of lockdown and the groups are 6 and all that kind of stuff, you could send your draft over to people maybe by picture messaging or WhatsApp or email or whatever. Just get some constructive feedback back. They might say they really liked this. They might say I didn't understand that. So you might need to make some tweaks to make your final magazine front cover looking a little bit more professional. And there we go. So that will take us really up until the end of January. You then come to Learn Name C, which is the evaluation. It covers every stage from the beginning of component 2 to the end. And I'd like you to take sort of February to get that done. So things that I want to show you are, this is a really good example of a task that you could work on. This could be hand-drawn. It could be done on a computer. All depends on whether you've got laptop, PC access, internet access, anything like that. But what I really like about this is how you could take the outline of your figure. You might have a good idea if it's a headshot or someone's posing. You could either provide it as a proper image or not. You could just sketch an outline. But I really like this one because it plays around with the different fonts for subheadings as well. So that's something I think you should all try and do. I think it's also a really good idea to try and play around with different features and magazine articles, headlines and cover lines and strap lines that might go into your magazine in the end. So I think a few of you could probably work on something like this. And I know a few of you have started it already, but even just a little Word document, it's been a bit slow. You might have just bullet points where you write out, right, okay, 50 best places to go to a gig, how to dress for your first concert even. What's another one? Maybe I really like it when they sort of do like a bit of a number. So maybe 10 songs to listen to when you're feeling, I think you get the gist. Play around with all the different headlines and features and article features and cover lines and strap lines that really are synonymous with your magazine music genre. But having a little document like that's great. If you want to go back to something like this and play around with different fonts, I think that'd be really good too. Again, this is down to you in terms of how you approach some of your tasks. But it's not quite on the checklist. I've sort of added it down the bottom here. So drafts on a PC, cutting out images and fonts from a magazine, drafting pages from inside the magazine. So that leads me on nicely to, for some of you who are aiming for merit, but particularly distinction, I think you can go way beyond just one magazine front cover. And I think that's something you need to consider doing. So this site that I linked to Google Classroom a little while ago just asks you, as in your kind of own research, look at double page spreads that already exist. So look at them, look at the posing, look at the content, look at the features, the quote that comes from the article itself. Can you draft something like that? Maybe you don't get to finish this as a final product, but at least it shows the examiner, the BTEC examiner, that you were considering more than beyond the front page. And again, this is why it's really necessary that you guys try and take as many photos as you can of your band or artist, and not just in one place, in one kind of outfit. Try a couple of different outfits, try a couple of different locations, try try like a white wall, but also maybe try like with a blanket behind them, with a pattern that suits your music genre. Maybe go outside and find like an interesting backdrop, like, I don't know, like a really kind of effective, cool brick wall, or like a pathway somewhere. Like, you can play around with it. I think that's like what's the good thing about this. So if you look at that one, there's the Mark Ronson one. and Nicki Minaj. And then just moving on, I've got just 2 more things I wanted to go through. This is an example of the kind of cover that you might do. So I really like this one because it's really clear. I'm not going to tell you the music genre. I think it should be really clear already at what kind of music genre this magazine is trying to head towards. So it's called Enlighten, brighten and widen your mind. We've got stuff like the things that are really necessary. So a barcode, an issue number, the price, what month it's coming out in. But we've got her headings. We've got the things that are featured in the magazine, something to do with gigs. We've got the name of the artist who is supposedly won an award, and this is who the picture's of. Just think it's a really simple but effective front cover. And again, as you can see, the picture is from the artist, in inverted commas, but she's outside. You can take photos outside as well. And I think if you have a selection of photos that are from inside and outside, I think that'd be really, really wise. So just going back to the checklist, I think I jumped the gun a little bit. So I was just saying about other things that you guys could do to get sort of like extra marks. So the drafts on a PC, I think, is a really good idea. So something like that, playing around with headlines and fonts and yep, there we go. I think that's a really good idea. For anyone who's feeling really arty, cutting out pictures or fonts or words and kind of like sticking it down onto a bit of paper to try and draft out like another kind of draft magazine, something to play around with, I think is probably quite a good idea. Drafting pages from inside the magazine, like we just said, even if you didn't think you was going to get to finish it, I think everyone should have a go at what a page or 2 might look like inside the magazine as well, whether it's sketched or finally had a go at on the computer as well. I think that might be quite a good way of doing it. And just like we said, a range of photos to show like a range of photos. I think is just really simple. I think you should all be doing it. I would hate to think that someone's got a folder at the end of February and it has like 3 photos of one person by a wall. Like, try and take as many photos as you can. And that's something you can be doing between now and February, really. It can be an ongoing product. You can take them on your phone, upload them at school. I think it's a really good thing to do. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to say to you guys today. Don't feel too underwhelmed by the lack of resources. Don't feel too overwhelmed if I'm sort of giving you things in drips and drabs. As long as we follow this kind of checklist, it gives you a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for from a folder. So just as a guide, I had it open before. It's going to take ages to open now. I'm going to show you what a folder looks like. Where's it gone? Right. So media. I'm going to go to coursework and last year's year 11 just to show you what their learner name A, B didn't quite get to see because we went into lockdown. But this was an incomplete folder, as was most of year 11's last year. But all the documents that you create that I'm asking you to constantly send to me all the time come my way and I put them in a folder that looks like that. And I think the position that we're in this year, we're in a much better position. We've got much better use of resources. I'm letting you guys try and create stuff yourself so that you find something that you think is really interesting or creative. Like, do it, send it to me. It's absolutely fine. Learner name B is going to look a little bit like this one. And that's going to include your final product in learner name B folder. I think we need to assume that BTEC are going to want a complete component 2 folder and they'll want to moderate it as well. I think we've been really lucky already for component 1 that they've accepted my predicted grade. And for 99% of you, it's on what you should be on, if not higher. So I need to prove to them that I haven't just plucked grades out of thin air, that they are like appropriate grades for you. So you need to try and get component 2 done. It's a solid folder, done to a good standard and at the level that we think you should be at as well. So I'll put this all on Google Classroom. I'll upload the video to YouTube as well. But if you've got any questions or any ideas, then obviously please feel free to message me as well. But I hope that sort of covers a few things for now. Okay, bye.